Mr. Martino is by Zoom. Everyone else is in the building. I need a motion to adopt the agenda. Any additions, Lori?
We have that one correction on my report.
Okay, but that didn't change the agenda.
No,
Okay.
it's not.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the agenda as published.
So moved.
Motion by David,
Second.
second by Joanne. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign, carries 7-0. 3.0 is approval of minutes for June 15, the regular meeting, June 25 for the two meetings, the 5:30 and the 7:30 ones. I thought that was a 7 o'clock meeting.
Yes.
Subdivision of 85 and 7, I believe. The special meeting, the July 1 organizational meeting. Need a motion to approve those four meetings.
Move to approve.
Motion by Joanne.
Second it.
Mrs. Olivia? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion by, all approved, same sign. No, carries 7-0. Hearing requests from citizens, I see no one here.
There's no one here, so we'll go ahead and,
5.0, yours, sorry.
all right, so summer school has been going on. We've done it online this summer, and so that's been a struggle. I think part of it is because they just finished up in the spring, and maybe then it was very lax then. And so I think it's been a struggle to get kids on task, to stay online, but she's worked on it for the last 2 months. So she's making contact with parents. I know she set up some individual schedules for students to have work time so that they can help, plan their day, those kinds of things. So we did go ahead and extend that, so students are continuing to work on Edgenuity until the end of the month. So
How many students are involved?
there were 12 students that were left that had been doing Edgenuity before, and then there were 8 summer school students. So it's my understanding there are 20 of the students that have been participating in that.
Who's the teacher?
That is Jamie Wells is the teacher. Our KRR, our Kindergarten Readiness Kansas Reading Roadmap, that's the wrong abbreviation. That was the after-school program that we did. It also had the summer school component. I brought last time the bucket. So those have finished up. They delivered those buckets each week. And the Kansas Reading Roadmap was not funded for the 2021 school year. So we won't, be having that next year. The next is the facilities update. So we had a facilities assessment done. Roger's got the preliminary book over there. And we're going to look through that. We have a meeting with the facilities team on Wednesday at 4 o'clock of this week to go over what's in that preliminary book. And to then, our facilities team, after we've looked at the book, then we will begin to determine, and they'll bring back to the board what needs to be done and in what order for priorities. Okay? Soccer fields, we met July the 10th with Gary from the rec center, the city, Sean Hill, Pat LaForge, our facilities team, a couple board members. We went ahead that day and walked the fields and looked around. So the plan is for Gary with the rec to get a written plan of estimates, timelines, costs, and dates. I visited with him today. He's been out of town since last Wednesday and was just getting back in town today. So tomorrow, he said that's the first thing that's on his agenda, is start to put together that timeline and that plan, that order of operations. So we'll have more the next time. Let's see, a couple of things. Last month, there were some questions about the ESI policy and regulations and our current one-to-one policy, and so I wanted to touch base and update you just so everyone understood. The ESI policy, and that's what this big packet is with all that information. So the ESI policy, which is the Emergency Seclusion, Intervention, and Restraint, that is all based on state legislation. Okay, and so that isn't something that law enforcement needs to look at or review or anything like that, because the restrictions, the restraints, the seclusions, all of that the school uses are completely different and used in a completely different context and in a different way than what law enforcement is. Okay, the police chief and I met. We went ahead and met and had a great lunch and visited. I shared the policy with him and he looked at it and read through it. I did get the job descriptions that were asked, so they're included in there as well. But that emergency seclusion intervention, that state legislation, that's not anything that they have any, we don't want to do anything other than what's outlined in that so that we are in compliance. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions?
Well, for the police then, what policy do they have regarding, let's say, neck holds or bear hugs or knees on the?
Those would be police policies, and so those aren't school policies, so that's not included in an emergency seclusion, intervention, and restraint.
I understand, but you had a conversation with the police chief. Was that discussed? Let's put it that way.
Was that, there are a variety of policies that they have. We didn't specifically discuss all the different restraints or holds or anything, because that's not applicable to this.
So in other words, they could not do that to a student, or?
There's a fine line between when it is a student issue, a school issue matter, and when it becomes a police matter. I don't foresee any situation where that would ever be required. We're all trained in de-escalation techniques, and that's a part of the training that we do every year at the beginning of the year, and so that staff would definitely intervene. That would not, I don't foresee that as something that would happen at all. But we did visit, for the emergency seclusion intervention, that's based on state statute. That has nothing to do with the holds that they do or may not do in regard to being a policeman. That's totally separate, okay? The other thing that was the acceptable use policy, and there was some confusion about if that, since the district was going to go one-to-one, if that became a right, or like an affirmative right, or somehow an inherent right, and it doesn't. So I visited with the attorney from KASB, and so that email is attached. But what that says, and what our policy says, is that everyone has equal access to the technology. So regardless of who you are, doesn't matter. We all start on the same playing field. Everyone has access to the technology, but that doesn't guarantee continued access to the technology. So if I give, if my kid has a computer, and just like everyone else, everyone's got this, a device, and he tears it up, well, that doesn't mean I have to give him another one. He doesn't have a right to do that. So they encouraged us to keep the language that was printed as it being a privilege and not a right, so that we have the opportunity to say, hey, you can't keep tearing that up, So there's some coverage there for.
Did that go the same for textbooks?
I don't know. I would assume so, because we would just make other copies, or the child would be able to maybe use it in the classroom, in a supervised setting. I don't know.
Well, and we used to charge for books if they.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So typically, if a book's torn up, there's a replacement charge that a student has to pay. So, but that doesn't mean we give them another one. Not necessarily.
That doesn't mean it gets paid either.
That is correct. But if it doesn't get paid, then they don't get another one. So we're all kind of covered.
Library books were the same thing, if I remember correctly.
Yes, you're right. Library books are. So, okay, so the next one is on my list is the fall 2020 update. How long you have? Okay, so today the governor had another press conference, and she has issued 2 executive orders. The first one she talked about last week, and that was the one that was delaying school until September the 9th. That order has to be voted on by the State Board of Education. And it's my understanding they're going to meet on Wednesday. Is that what you thought, Linda? Wednesday of this week. And so they will be the ones that will determine, does school start in August, or are they going to follow the executive order 2058 and start September the 9th? Okay. The other executive order that she came out with today was 2059, and this was a health and safety executive order, which she does have the right to issue, that doesn't have to be voted upon. And the gist of it, basically, and everyone's got copies of this at their spot. K-12 public and private schools shall require all students, faculty, staff, and vendors, and other visitors, you have to wear a mask. Everyone has to wear a mask. That's what's in this executive order. It says children who are not students and are under the age of 5, and children under the age of 2 should not, but otherwise. And then if there's a medical condition and those kinds of exceptions. But what she's mandating are masks, 6-foot distance from individuals, hand sanitizers available in all classrooms and easily accessible in other areas, and all individuals entering will have their temperature checked before the building for the first time each day. Okay.
Now, what about the student or the visitor who does not have a mask? What are we going to do there?
They will be given a mask. We will have paper masks that they'll be given. And if they refuse to wear a mask, then they will not be allowed to come in.
Okay.
So we're probably going to need to really limit access into the buildings, which I'm sure parents and people can understand. Where in the past, they may all come for a birthday party or they may all come for Halloween. We're probably we really need to look at and evaluate that to make sure what we're doing is in the best interest of our kiddos.
So as the students,
Although the earliest start date is September 9th, we're still obligated to do the 1,160 hours.
1,116 hours, we are still obligated to do that. So when I did the math today, and then Linda did some math, and Amanda did some math, we're all doing some math, based on the calendar, if we started September the 9th and went clear until our last calendar day, that's 1,073 hours, which puts us about 43 hours behind. However, each day we have 6 hours and 50 minutes. So if we were to spend, and there's only 43 hours that we would need, which would be about 7 days. So we could, in the spring, maybe shorten spring break, or maybe one of the days, take a couple days off, where we typically would have a day off for Columbus Day. We could go to school on Columbus Day, or we could make up some time during spring break so that our calendar would finish at regular time. Or we could add those days at the end, and if we did that and took one more day somewhere off of here, we would end before June. We could, if we didn't have any snow days. But we can predict the weather about as well as we can predict.
So does that have to be negotiated?
No, as long as the number of contract days are the same, it's my understanding that should be the same. Now, if we're saying staff, we want for them to come back early and then to stay later, then that's adding additional days to their contract, and that would be something we would need to negotiate.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Would snow days be looked at a little bit different if everyone has a device?
Well, if everyone had a device, that would be great, and we could just do remote for the day, and it wouldn't be a day lost. However, if the teachers that are doing remote are doing that from the buildings, if it's safe enough for all the teachers to come to the buildings to perform the remote instruction, it's probably safe enough for everyone to come to school. Now, it is something that we could look at in regard to having typically we've had 3 days worth of subplans or a day worth of subplans. It's possible that they could do some online things and have all of those things prepared as a review ahead of time for each quarter or something. And then if we had a snow day, we could upload those and everyone had their device and they could have their school that day. But that's where it gets, kind of tricky.
Okay. Is it possible that for some of these in-service days, this September the 9th, is that for students and teachers?
See,
Nobody in the buildings?
That's a really good question.
Just say.
And it's not, when you read through the order, to me, I thought, it looks like to me, where did we see that? Could we even tell? It says that no one. It says K-12 public and private schools should not allow attendance, instruction, athletic practice, competition, rehearsal, performance, or any other action of an instructional manner, including virtual, online, and any other direct or indirect means of providing instruction between faculty, staff, and students of public or private from August the 10th through September the 8th. But then she has some caveats, and it says, if they're going to a college class and concurrently enrolled, they can continue that. Or if we were going to have enrollment days, which we probably will want to look at doing some kind of a staggered, very small scale enrollment, students could come into the building for that. And then we could have screenings and evaluations. So a lot of times we do the child find for pre-K kids, for speech, language, fine motor, other kinds of delays. There could continue to be that screening.
Well, my curiosity was in service.
I know.
Could we have about 3 or 4 days in service and not
Before
block
that.
out these Wednesdays or wherever?
Yeah,
They count as half.
I don't, what?
They count as a half.
Yeah, those days do. Well, I went through and figured if we took all the professional development days in the entire calendar, that only gives us 6.5. And that includes the 3 that, or the 4, whatever, 3 that we have at the beginning. If we took and moved them all to the beginning, which I think that we could, because that wouldn't necessarily have to be negotiated, it's the same amount of days, the same amount of contact, then teachers and staff could come back those 6.5 days. That being said, we're still going to have to make up 7 days at the end in order to get to that 1,116
Right, yeah.
hours. So, you know, there's still a lot of questions, and the State Board of Education is going to be the one that's going to decide whether it's an August start or whether it's a September start.
If we did that at the beginning, that would really give the teachers really, really
Right.
good planning time.
Yes.
As far as-
Time in the room and not out.
Yeah.
And initially, I had on the agenda today to do that, to move a calendar, to look, it's somewhere on, item 7.6 was to discuss some possible action on moving a professional development day from somewhere to the front so that we could have at least 4 solid days. However, now, we don't know when we're going to start, so we need to wait, I think. I mean,
That's the earliest it can start, is the
August,
9th.
well, if the state board approves her.
Yes.
If not, and if not, we'll start on August 17th. Teachers will.
Shoot.
Right, yeah. So that's kind of where we're at with that. I did, this week, well, we've done a lot, and it's only Monday, feels like. So last week, here's the document. Here are the recommendations for starting schools in August or in September. It's 1,174 pages. Now, some of that is grade banded material, so it's a lot of curriculum work in the beginning. There's about 90 to 100 pages on the operations, and that's how do you get everyone in the building? How do you wash hands? You know, those kinds of things, transportation. So they're working on that. We spent 2 hours last week. All the administrators did, and Mike reviewing. Dr. Watson had a Zoom that we went and listened to for a couple hours, talking us through all of that. Okay. So we do have a special superintendent Zoom tomorrow as well. We just got that email before we left. So I would assume that's regarding the 2 executive orders that came out today. But I won't know until 12:30 tomorrow. Okay. So let's see. We did send out staff surveys, and we sent out parent surveys as well, just to kind of see what people were thinking and feeling in regard to starting school, or maybe what some preliminary options might be and what level of interest. I think had I sent these surveys out a month ago, the results would have been very different than they were this month. And so I think if we push the day, if the day goes to September the 9th, then we're going to want to continue to plan, but we're also going to want to survey again after a few weeks to see if the consensus, what the consensus is. Okay. Today, high school and middle school principals returned to work, and they were working on those operations about how are they going to have passing periods and, those kinds of things. All the secretaries returned to work today. They were back in the building, so they were answering phone calls. We also had physicals today, so students were able to get their free physical. Those were scheduled by appointment only, and so students came in and did that with their parents today as well. Also this week, on Wednesday, the area superintendents from Lebec County were having a meeting with the health department and with Lisa Stivers from the health department to discuss some of the health department's recommendations regarding what school should look like health-wise. Okay. And August the 5th, we do have new teacher orientation. And so we are excited to have some new folks joining us. And so we will have that day on August the 5th. Okay, I think that's
Okay,
it.
Larry, any questions for Lori? Okay, we'll move on to 6.0, which is Tri-County Report. This was just really the organizational meeting. We made a lot of appointments. We approved the expenses we have with all of the different groups we have, like the insurance and the professional subscriptions like PDP, the MAP, and all those. That was all of it. We did tentatively approve the negotiated agreement, pending agreement by the teachers. If they approved it, then it would be ready to go. And we did set salaries for the directors and all those folks set those salaries. It was about an hour meeting, and it took a lot of it just to go through all these options, but that was it. So we'll move on to any questions for that? Okay, we're ready for 7.0, which is set a special board meeting to approve, or review and approve for publication of the budget.
Right, so the budget is due on August the 25th. We have to have it published in the newspaper 10 days prior to that. And so I would recommend, so if I look at my calendar, let me look at the whole month here.
When is the budget going to be ready to view?
So the budget, we are going to go and we're going to try to get to the State Department to see Craig Newswander to have that reviewed the very end of August, end of July, beginning of August, sometime in that first week of August. Isn't that what we looked at, Linda? Right. And so if we could have the special meeting on the 10th or the 11th of August, right?
Yeah.
And then if we had it on the 11th, we could get it to the newspaper on the 12th, and it could be printed in the newspaper on the 13th. And then if for some reason there were a problem or something in the printing of that, we would have one more day to correct that to get it on the 14th so that we would have adequate time. So I would suggest we have a meeting either on the 10th or the 11th.
What's y'all's privilege?
I'm good for either day, so.
I
I'm
suggest,
passing.
Lou?
I pass. I'll be out of town part of that day, but you'll have enough numbers.
Okay.
How about, would you be around the 10th? Lou, or you got out that week?
I can do that on the 10th.
Yeah, I can get on the 10th.
Everybody okay on the 10th? What time we want to do it? 6:30 in the morning?
Olivia's head is shaking.
No.
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 I don't blame you.
It shouldn't take very long, that
No.
meeting.
No.
It really should
Even
not.
more reason not to do it 6:30.
David, what works for you?
I'm flexible. I mean, if we want to do it whenever, 7, 8, noon, 1, 5, whatever.
I prefer early or late.
10 sounds good to me.
I'm sorry, Lou?
10 sounds good to me. I'll be out of church.
Jeff, that work for you?
Yeah, set it whenever, it's fine.
10 o'clock? That makes 2 10s. 10 o'clock on the 10th.
At the board office or where?
No, it will be here.
Here.
It'll be here at the high school so that we're able to appropriately social distance.
Okay, I'll need a motion to that effect.
I so move.
Motion by Olivia,
Second.
second by Roger, to meet on August the 10th at 10 a.m. here at this spot to review the budget and approve for publication. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, carries 7-0. 7.1 is to set a special board meeting to approve the reopening plan.
Okay. And then herein lies the problem, because we won't know when the reopening date is until Wednesday. And so I would hate to say we're going to have a plan by August the 12th or August the 1st, which we would need to have if we were going to start on August the 17th. But if we're starting on September the 9th, as we all know, so much can change in just such a few short days. So,
Can you set it for that same August date, the 10th, and just
No,
tentatively?
we could do that, but if we start the 17th, that's awfully late to.
Yeah.
so what I'd propose to do is Wednesday after the state board meeting, whether I hear a yay or a nay, we'll send out an email and let you know, and we will determine accordingly. That be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that,
All right. No action. 7.2 is approve the recommendations from KASB, the policy updates, and the home rule, which you got all that stuff a couple weeks ago.
last week, yeah.
So if there's any concerns about those policies, now would be a good time to bring them up. Otherwise, we'd need a motion to approve them.
At the last Zoom meeting, I was confused about the home rule regarding masks and well, basically about masks, what the county commissioners do and what the school board can do. Which entity supersedes the other?
It's my understanding after watching the meeting today, it would be the school board would supersede for the school itself. So the county may say no masks, but the school could say yes masks, and that would be
So it
required.
could be more
And
stringent, but not less stringent.
That's my understanding. Is that your
Right, that's
understanding,
my
Linda?
understanding,
Right.
too.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So do we have the right to overrule the governor's executive order?
No, we do not. I don't think, no, we do not. So if, the executive order comes out and says, school starts this day, this is what you're going to do, you're going to wear these masks, and the state board approves that, Parsons District Schools can't say, no, not for us.
Well, it doesn't say it starts on the 9th, which,
No, you can't start before
You
then.
just can't start before that. You're right. Yes, you're right, Lou. It just says
But
it's
that-
delayed until then.
The 9th is a student attendance day, not a,
That's the way I read it.
Okay.
Now, tomorrow, after our meeting with Dr. Watson, I'm sure the other 200 and however many superintendents in the state we have a list of questions, and they're probably pretty much the same, and that's one that's on there.
okay.
So,
Any other questions? If not, I need a motion to approve these policy updates.
Move to approve.
Motion by Jeff,
Second?
second by David. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, carries 7-0. 7.3 is all those handbooks that we got a month ago. Any questions or concerns on those?
yeah, I do.
Okay,
In some of the Zoom meetings that we were talking about fire drills and tornado drills during with distancing and face masks. Obviously, if there's a fire drill and there's a real fire, you want the kids out of the building, or if there's a tornado. But what is the protocol during COVID?
well, that's a good question. That's one of those things that we're going to have to get guidance from, and we're going to have to work through. I don't know. I mean, if it's a fire, the protocol is to get out
No, I'm
quietly,
talking about
calmly.
drills right now.
Yeah, but drills, and part of that is the state fire marshal every year says, these are the drills that are required and that we have to log. And so I haven't seen those for the 2021 school year, so they may be different. They may not, to be honest, the drill part of it, like having a tornado drill or having an intruder drill, that's not been at the top of the priority list at this point. But I'm sure that they'll tell us.
And it seems like maybe common sense that some of that would be waived this
sure.
year, just because,
I mean, if there really is an intruder, then
Yeah.
that's something where we're not going to practice social distancing. We're going to keep our kids safe. That's what it's all about. So I would assume that those drills where you have to get closer than 6 foot, it can't be maintained, that they would possibly say, this first semester, you don't have to have those drills. We just have to use some common sense too. And our job is to keep our kids safe. So we know we
I
can't
don't
mitigate all
disagree.
this.
I'm just saying, when you're told to wear a mask and distance, this puts a little chink in the whole deal. Yeah, I know we want to keep our kids safe. I'm not disputing that.
Right.
I'm just saying this has been brought up in several Zoom meetings, and no one obviously has the answer.
Right.
The common sense doesn't make common sense right now. That's the problem.
Right.
So when you talk to the health official, maybe that's an issue that we can get some guidance on. The way everything is written is for non-COVID, and I'm for all that stuff, but this is a little different story. That's all I'm saying.
Anything else, Lou?
No, sir.
Okay. And from anyone else? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve all these handbooks.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
David, second by Joanne to approve the staff handbook, student parent handbook, virtual Viking program, student handbook, the middle school course description, safe school plan, bus driver handbook, parent student transportation handbook. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, carries 7-0. Sorry?
No,
I'm sorry.
no, based on what I just said.
Okay, 6-1 with Mr. Martino voting no. Okay, we're on the 7.4 action to approve the KSDE e-cigarette vaping discipline policy.
So before COVID, the big topic, it seemed like, of concern was vaping and all that that entails. And so at one point, the board did approve what KSDE had offered on the 21st, but now, and the disciplinary, now these recommendations can be found, they've been updated on page 26 through 30 in your packet.
And this is actually the discipline portion of that policy, right?
That is correct.
What I like about this policy, in terms of discipline, it's not where you kick some kid out of school. It's a matter of educating them, just like we do in our drug policy. And I think this is a really good policy, the way it's written. It's non-punishing, where a student won't lose class time.
Right.
But he will be educated, or she will be educated on the ills of e-vaping.
And hopefully behavior will be changed, because that's what discipline is about teaching and learning. And so hopefully that's.
Any other questions or comments, suggestions? If not, I accept a motion to approve this policy.
So do.
Roger?
Second.
Second by Joanne. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries 7-0. 7.5 is action on technology acceptable use policy and the 101 technology policy.
Okay, and so there, the language that, had been in question about using it as a privilege and not a right, they asked that we, KASB, the attorney did say that needed to stay. They recommended that. In here, the thing was the amount, this is the same, this isn't the one. Yes, it is. So if you look on page 35, 34 and 35, this is where the charges are and how much it would cost for something to be checked out, and that's what we need to have board approval on. So it looks like a technology usage fee would be $50 a student, maximum of $150 a household. That's just a one-time fee, one time a year. We do not charge any textbook fees at this time, as many other districts do. And then for the repair cost of that, it would be $100 maximum, or the actual cost of the repair, right? Is that $100 or actual repair cost, whichever is the lowest? So if it costs $4.12 to repair it, we would ask the parent, And then lost repairs exceeding the total cost, and that would be a full replacement. And Ben is in the other room, I think. And then stolen, we would just expect someone to file a police report, and then pay for the replacement cost of that.
Now, all these computers were purchased with COVID money, is that correct?
No, some of them we already had in the district. There were a number that were purchased with
To
COVID.
make it a one-on-one, we purchased the extra computers from COVID money, is that correct?
We purchased the extra computers from COVID money. However, we took computers that we currently have in circulation and assigned those. And
I understand.
Right.
My question is, we're going to have a lot of parents who may not have jobs, and we are one of the poorest counties in the state of Kansas. And I'm not saying we shouldn't hold students or parents responsible. I'm saying perhaps if something is broken, or there's a malfunction, or there's an issue, that a parent or guardian may discuss the paying with the principals. I just think this particular year, it makes it tough for some parents to pay, period.
I don't disagree with what Lou's saying, but we're not going to leave this up to principals to decide who pays and not. That's not going to work out for us as a district. That's how you get sued. Yes, that's the right word. That's how you get sued.
Sorry.
And so we need a policy on this, and it's going to be for everybody.
I'm just saying, some people aren't going to be able to pay. And Lori said they won't have a computer.
Well, and there's always the possibility that some set up a payment plan and make a payment plan, but
Well, that's what I'm trying to say.
But the thing is, for a student to have the privilege of having that one-to-one, doesn't mean they won't have access to it at school, but to have that one-to-one, I mean, there has to be some skin in the game so that it's not, does that
Well,
make
you can
sense?
say that about textbooks too.
Right,
However.
but the
there's
board
a
has
homework
voted,
gap
elected not to,
meeting.
textbooks aren't quite as, they're as expensive, we just haven't used them, I guess, maybe.
Well, there's a homework gap meeting Tuesday, because when we talked about this in our Zoom meetings,
There's a lot.
part of the problem is, especially now, is trying to get every kid to get a computer so they can get online and do some of the work when they can't be in the building. So I'm just saying, we're not the richest district, and yes, we need to be responsible parents. I like the payment plan idea.
Are you okay with the $50 per student fee, Lou?
Jeff, I'm okay if someone can pay it. I'm just saying some people may not be able to pay it. You talking about the upfront $50?
Yeah.
Well, if a parent has 3 or 4 kids, we're looking at $200.
We said 150 per family.
So the maximum would be 150. So if I have 5 kids or if I have 3 kids, it'll still be 150, anything over 3 kids. That way, it isn't. It's, And I think if parents know now, in July, okay, when school starts in August, September, and we officially turn everything in and it's going to cost $50 for my child to have a computer, there is some time here between now and the beginning of school to budget for that, in my opinion.
So they'll lose the $50. If they break or lose the computer, they'll lose that $50 plus another $100 for repair or replacement. So that's $150 per.
It does say responsibilities that normal wear and tear on mobile devices is expected. However, any damage or wear past the slight cosmetic damage that interferes with the mobile device serving its primary function would be immediately reported, and then those repairs would have to be paid for up to $100 by a parent.
Okay, then it says.
Accidents happen. I mean, and we understand that, but if it's something that's,
Continual.
right.
What's the full replacement cost?
$300. So people better keep track of them. I mean, I think that's,
Well, I think we have to start somewhere, and this is our first year. And we can,
and we can always use this year to collect the data to see how many repairs did we need to have? Were we able, how much did that cost? How long, were those out? Those kinds of things. But you're right, this is the first year we've ever done it, so there are a lot of unknowns at this point. However, the tech gentleman did visit with numerous other districts to kind of get some ideas in regard. And these fees were pretty much in line with what others in the area were asking.
Well, that may be. What have we done in the past before COVID in regard to replacement costs or break charges? What have we done like last year?
Okay, so if a
How much
student,
do we charge?
if a student intentionally broke a device, see, then
I
they're.
don't know about intentionally, but if it's broken,
Right. Well, if it wasn't intentional, I mean, accidents happen. What we've done in the past is that's been a building by building, that's been on the principals, because we didn't have a written policy in regard to, this is how much it costs to use the technology, and this is the replacement. There were parents that did pay, or helped to pay towards repairs. But that's why we need to have the policy so that everyone is treated the same, and that the expectation is the same for everyone.
Anything else, Lou?
no.
Anything else, anyone else?
So I want to know how you feel about this, Lou. I want you to vote for this policy. So I want you to vote for a policy.
Well, maybe for this year, because we got a little boost from the government on purchasing these computers, and it is the first time, I would lower that price to maybe $25 a student and $75 a household and $50 actual repair cost for this year, only because of COVID. And we want to get kids to be responsible, and it would be in line with what we've been doing the past years. And then we could always, depending on how much damage is done, because we don't know. So there's some skin in the game.
What's the average price?
$300
No, excuse
per
me, not
device.
price.
But
What's the average breakage fee compared to other districts? Can Ben answer that?
I'm sure that he can. He's going to put on his mask, and he's going to come out here. Because right now he's in a room by himself, so he doesn't have to have it, I guess. Okay, so let's see.
I mean, I understand what Lou's talking about.
Yeah,
I just
right.
hate to get it too low to where it's just trivial.
Well, but on the other hand, there'd be some parents that may not want the computer because they can see money coming out of their pocket that they don't really have right now.
Yeah.
So then and it's not a one-on-one anymore. That's all I'm saying.
Can a parent opt out?
Say, I don't want to.
Well, if we use if the technology is integrated, which is what we hope that it is, it's integrated into the instruction, then opting out wouldn't be an option because it's a part of the daily instruction and routine, which is what we want for students, because we want it for a variety of reasons. But there was a question about the average replacement, not replacement, but charge repair. fee.
How does other districts, how does this compare to other districts, high, low, rough?
Screens are usually the most expensive. They could be up to 120, 150. They're going to be where you're going to see that $100 kick in a lot. Keyboards can be anywhere from $40 for some of them to $15 for other ones. So like the whole keyboard could just be $15, which is not bad. But again, it depends on the model, and we kind of have a plethora of models right now. Again, because of this COVID situation, my previous 5-year plan kind of got changed. So we're going to have those laptops for 2 years, but then we're going to have, after 2 years, we're going to have a consistent Chromebook and iPad, and we'll know more. And again, this first year is Lori's been saying it very well over here, it is a data gathering year. And when Matt and I came up and presented this to you guys, we were completely intending on the board to decide the amounts. It's just that's what we were asking for support, was about $50 a kid, which would be about $60,000, so that we could be covered. That's our projected, cost for keeping this going. If our breakage is aligned with other school districts. We could be well below that. We could be twice that. So I wouldn't be opposed to doing $25. It's just that I have to have board support to where we're not going to die on the vine halfway through the year because we didn't hold enough money back to keep everything going. So, I mean, again, the amounts was the board, that's what we were looking for the board to decide.
And
was the
these amounts that you proposed, those were similar to amounts that are around.
They're actually
in this-
lower than
those in the
pretty much
area.
everybody. So they're either in line or lower. Some other school districts, especially smaller ones, have you purchase the device outright. And then if anything is wrong with it, you
so that's like, $350 up front.
What other district close by has one-on-one?
A lot of them, actually.
Name one.
Pittsburgh may be up there now. I'm sorry, I don't have data with me. I know Galesburg does even. So a lot of the smaller ones do as well.
So,
And that was kind of out of, some of them have had it for 7, 8 years.
All right, so Galesburg is higher than what we're going to charge. Is that
well,
what
and
you're saying?
that isn't data that he has with him right now. He wasn't prepared
Correct.
for that question. So
I'm
he'd
just
need
going
to-
off my memory banks
Right.
on that, so.
he would need to get that information to share specifically regarding the schools and the amount. That
But I
wasn't
could
something-
gather, because we do have all the policies from all the schools we visited, schools that we've been in contact with in terms of groups meeting online.
Right, they do have all that
So I
information.
could get that information to you, but I think we're looking at approval is pretty much, we're kind
Could
of
we
there.
table it till we approve our budget? Does that give us a little, would that be decent time?
That works for me.
And again, I wouldn't be opposed to $25, I wouldn't be opposed to
We could.
$50
The
max
purpose
per
would be what?
repair. It's kind of,
To table it would be, the purpose to table it would just be.
Well, I don't know, just so he could have the information to see about the other districts.
The parents may,
Okay.
well, what if we just go with 50 per student, 100 maximum, and $50 for the repair? Does that, Olivia, does that help you somewhat, or are you iffy
I just
so-so?
think they need to know.
Right, I
Yeah,
think.
well, that's what I'm saying.
They
Parent-
needed to know maybe 30 days ago. I don't think people can budget from now until the start either date.
Right,
People's budgets aren't like that.
right.
Right, and it was on it was on the last board meeting, but it wasn't, decided upon then.
yeah, because we talked about it.
It was on the agenda.
So Roger, you're suggesting that instead of having a three-member household, a two-member household is
Maybe a
max?
2 and just go 50 per actual, I don't know, how often do you have to repair computers at the elementary schools? Is it more at the high school?
Basically, no, we've only done one-to-one at Garfield at a limited basis last year only. So the amount of data we have is very specific towards iPads used sparingly throughout the day or as needed throughout the day. It's just we had them available to them. So it's really not a big enough data set to extrapolate out to the district.
Oh, no, I
except for
know,
we've-
but what's the main problems that you have when you have to repair something? What is it mainly? Keyboard, screens?
It completely depends on the,
Just-
iPads are usually broken screens. They're pretty robust. We put a big rubber case around them. Teachers are usually good about, that. A lot of broken plugs, iPads being pulled out when they're still plugged in.
Right.
So that kind of thing on those, iPads don't have keyboards on them. But the problem with them is any breakage on an iPad is basically a total replacement breakage, except for we've been looking into avenues to not have that.
Right.
So it hasn't been a problem in the past because we, maybe one or two, a handful a year, but now that everyone has them, so much more, and especially at the high school level when they take them home, everything we've looked at, when they take the device home, it goes up 300% breakage. Once you put it in a backpack and go between classes, it goes up 150%.
Jeez.
So we're preparing for the worst, and if everything goes well, that would be fantastic. And if we want to reduce the financial burden on the end user, we can do that. We just need to hold enough money aside to where this won't fail before we've actually began.
Right.
In our budget,
Correct.
in our,
So, and that's what, and again, Matt isn't here, and I kind of ran in from the other room, so. But that's what we're looking
Yeah.
at. Go ahead, Lou, sorry.
That sounded like a good idea to hold some money back to help defray the cost.
So it's basically a board decision on money. That's what, looking at all the different schools we've talked to, I think over 15 or 20 local schools, that's the amounts we came up with. That's the average or lower. If we want to go even below that, that's a good selling point. I just need the support. Because we're going to have a lot more repairs than we've ever had
Yeah, I don't like the idea of necessarily changing that repair line. If anything, I would be a little bit more palatable to me, changing the technology usage fee.
I
If we want to
agree.
decrease that, but
I agree. I think we need to keep the repair because the repair is when a student or family is not taking care of the device. The usage fee, we are, given the circumstances, putting these devices in the students' hands to learn from. So yes, it is a right, but yet it is a lot easier on us if they have these devices in their hands as well. Because one student out of 20 that doesn't have a device in their hands causes a lot more work for a teacher, given the mechanism we're going to be teaching with. And so if we could all get on board with a plan where we leave the repair as is and wipe the technology usage fee, forget about the technology usage fee.
I think you at least have to have something in there, even if it's $25, and that way people are aware, parents are aware that, hey, I'm at least
There's
paying
something
for
up front.
something.
I wouldn't be opposed to the $25 up to, Olivia, what do you think? 2, 3 kids? 2 kids? $50?
Maybe 25 per student, max of maybe 100. If you have 4 kids, 5 kids.
Right.
And people do have that many kids.
I'm with that, if that's okay. Lou, how about you? 25 per kid up to 4, or do you want to keep it at 75?
I want to stay at 75 because I'm thinking of the single mom or dad who's got 3 or 4 kids that doesn't have a job and just, it's going to be tough for some people. And we're assuming that everyone's going to be back on all these Zoom meetings from all our surveys. Districts are going to lose some kids. So we will have computers, maybe not as many students. I don't know. I wish I knew. But to answer your question, Roger, yes, 75.
And leave us 100 on the repair then? Is that what you said, Jeff?
Yeah, I was just wanting to reduce the technology fee. I think the
Right.
repair, I mean, they need to be aware, if they break something,
anybody.
it's on them, that's right. But
Right, okay,
I'm
so-
all for supplying it to them the first time around, and then if they screw it up, well, then let's charge them.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I would say up to $75. So this says $100 or actual repair cost, whichever is lowest. Well, that's an interesting statement. So I would go with 75.
What's that 100?
So
You
I think
mean
you're- I
up
think
to
you're both are-
$100, Ben?
I think you both are talking about two different, I think you're talking about 25 a kid, up maximum 75, and then Lou's talking about
Yeah, but
75
repair.
maximum per incident of repair.
Okay, but on
Which, I
this,
mean, either one, again, as long as we have financial support from the board to cover whatever the board wants to change on that, if we hold money aside for that, so we
Okay,
don't
but-
die on the vine, then.
I think the problem is he's seeing, we're either going to charge him $100 or the actual repair cost, which is lowest. So if something goes over 100, it'll be the $100?
Correct.
Yes.
$100 maximum.
$100 maximum. Under that, okay.
But if
I think
it's-
that's what,
But if it's $350 of damage, we're just gonna replace it,
right,
and that would be a full replacement cost.
right.
So what if it's $200? Are we going to repair it?
$100.
It's, yeah,
$100.
You pay $100.
Yeah,
$100 max.
any
I keep
damage,
that.
any damage exceeding the full replacement cost. And again, as we're good, this policy is gonna look very different next year too. And we're gonna learn, and it may the money may go down. That would be great. Or we have to hold more aside, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, because we just have to see what it's going to look like when our students have one-to-one. What, the damage will be or not be.
It's better to have a policy than not have one.
Absolutely.
So-
This is too big of an investment not to have a policy, in my
So,
opinion.
so if there is no technology fee, we're basically asking for $65,000 to have available for repair.
Now, is there any insurance at all on anything of this? No?
We've been looking at insurance constantly. Emails we've sent out. The best insurance rates we could come up with were worse. I mean, they're like $50 per device.
Per occurrence or
with
something.
no incidents, and then $50 per occurrence.
Oh,
So it's not really worth it. It's cheaper for us to buy parts and fix it ourselves.
right. Okay.
Okay, so what I think I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, the technology usage fee lowered to 25 with a maximum of 75?
No, did you say 3, Olivia? Yeah, that's right, 75.
75 per
Yeah.
family.
And the repair, I've heard both 100 and I've heard 75.
Well, I'm going for 75.
Right?
I'll take the gamble, I'll go 75 too.
Okay, let's see how this flies then, folks. I need a motion.
But Jeff, what do you think? Or do you think we ought to stick at the 100?
I think Lou made a motion.
Okay.
I heard Lou make a motion. Did you make a motion, Lou, for the 75 and then
I
the,
don't think that motion was my job. No, because you go down one more line where it lost repair exceeding total cost, full replacement. If it's stolen, full replacement, I don't know. I don't know what you do in a situation like that. That's $300.
Well, that means they got to take care of the equipment.
Right. Keep track.
I'm sorry?
That means they got to take care of the equipment. You give somebody a $300 piece of equipment, they should take care of it. You shouldn't, you may have one or two in a year, but you shouldn't have very many where they're completely ruined and you got to replace it.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. I think there might be, some, like if there was a fire or something in a home, I think there would be extenuating
Oh, yeah.
circumstances. But I think that just, it's not going to happen that often, and this is our first year. So I think we should go with full replacement and learn from this first year. And
Well, I mean, and you could claim it as part of insurance too. If there's a fire, I mean, that would
Right.
be a replacement cost.
okay, yeah,
For
If they
that
have
equipment.
insurance.
I mean, it would have to meet your, deductible. So someone broke your window on your car and just stole your laptop, it's probably not going to meet the deductible, but if it's a bigger, something like with a fire or something like that, so. But, yep, I mean, there's a lot of angles to this, but I would not be opposed to those dual $75. I just need to know that I'll get board support for if the costs are over that for us.
Okay. Somebody give me a motion, please.
I so moved.
Okay, you going at 100 or 75 on the full replacement?
I thought we was going 75, unless
75.
Jeff thinks we need to do 100.
No, I like 100, but I'm in the mood to negotiate.
Lou, is 75 okay for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I have a motion for Roger that technology usage fee will be $25 per student with a maximum of $75, and the repair will be $75 maximum. Lost or repair to exceed the total cost will be a full replacement cost. If it's stolen, then the police report is filed, and somewhere along the line, you're going to have a full replacement cost. I have a motion from Roger,
Second.
second by Jeff. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? None, carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Lori,
Okay, this-
7.6, you want to move on that today, or?
This next item on the moving on professional development, we're not ready to do that yet either until after we hear from the State Board of Education, so I would.
No action on 7.6. 7.7,
Okay, so 7.7, here's something that I've been thinking about that's come up in a lot of Zoom meetings and in meeting with other superintendents, would be substitutes. And finding substitutes, it's difficult to find substitutes. It's a little easier for Parsons because the pay is better than area schools at $110 a day. However, in a time like this, there are many, we've had some call, I had one call me today and say, I'm just not going to be able to, because a lot of our subs are older or in a higher risk category. So I wanted to put out to the board to see if they might, we currently have 2 full-time substitutes that we pay. The cost, all-inclusive, if we were to add another, would be about $30,000. It's about what we figured by the time we did FICA and did the insurance. And so I wondered if there would be an interest or if there would be a willingness to allow for me, I don't even know if these people exist, to look to see if the district for the 2021 school year could hire additional full-time permanent substitutes so that we would have one adequate or closer to adequate substitutes, and we would also be able to control where the substitute went. A lot of our substitutes sub in 4, 5, 6, 7 different districts. If they were employed by us, we would know, we could count on them every day. We would know where they had been, in which buildings, with students, those kinds of things.
But what if we decide just to up the pay some more?
We could have.
Instead of hiring full-time subs. I mean, I understand, but that's giving us, that's another 5 times subs, and then if you don't have anything for them to do,
Well, and I figure now, since everyone has to have their temperature taken before they come in a building whenever we start, and we have masks that are probably going to have to be washed, and all those other things, I felt like even if we had an additional person in each building, even if the district said yes, or the board said yes, we'll hire 3, I really think we'll be able to find things for them to do just regarding the safety and sanitation. But then there, could also be a vaccine by December, and then what would they do, the next semester? I don't know. And to be honest, I have a list of some people that I thought I could call. We'd need to advertise and see if people would be interested. I don't know if there will be a big interest in this at all.
So you're asking for 3 more, you think?
2 or 3.
2 or 3.
So if we had 3 more, there would be 1 assigned to each building, and then they could report there and cover, and then they could also move around in the district. It would just be a matter of, I was thinking of control, contact, to contact trace, and just, we would know who'd been where.
it would cost us about, how much a year?
It was right under 30. Is that what we figured, Linda?
So
So it'd be 90.
So 30,000 a sub, would
sub.
be 90,000 together.
Right. And it could be something that the Spark money, which is through the county, we could possibly use some of that, or we could use some of the CARES money, because the purpose, this is a direct result of COVID-19. Otherwise, we would never need 5 or 4 full-time subs. 2 is adequate.
So
What if we raised or temporarily raised our substitute pay to $150 a day? Would that be attractive, do you think, to more?
Would it? I would
think
say it'd be
you
very
would-
attractive.
Yeah, but you'd also have to run those numbers. Okay, what's that
Right.
annually? 150 times 8 hours a day times X days a year.
For every
You know,
sub.
are we looking at more than 9,000? More than likely
Well,
you are.
We'd have
That's a good point.
we'd have
I'd like to know that myself.
Can we table this till next time?
Oh, sure.
With some
And
steps?
and we have another meeting coming up to go over when we approve the budget. I could have some numbers then to see, because I hadn't thought of just raising the pay for the day.
Yeah, because it's
To
not
see-
90,000, it's 90,000 minus what you would have been paying those people hourly.
Right, absolutely. So it's whatever we would have paid for a sub, because we're gonna have to have subs anyway.
$110 a day.
Right.
Times however many, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but I hadn't done that math.
But then sometimes subs get the big money when they do 10 consecutive.
Yeah, if they've done a long-term per policy, then the sub
Then
rate
it
goes
goes
up.
way up there.
So it appears to me that we're going to have a higher demand for subs on one hand. On the other hand, if we're in a remote learning environment and no one's coming to work, that could, in theory, reduce our need for subs.
Good.
It could also, if we have a lot of people sick, and even if we're in a remote, will people go on paid time off if they're sick, even if they're remote learning or remote instructing? I mean, I don't know what people are going to do.
And then it becomes the whole, if someone is exposed and they have to isolate for so many days or
Yes.
quarantine at home for so
Yes.
many days. I was just trying to think of ways that we could make sure the coverage for the classrooms was available.
Well, and now that we're thinking through this out loud, a consistency of a sub in each building would really help with that. If we do
Well,
have,
And it would just be nice because that the subs could then learn the procedures for how we do things in 503. So it wouldn't be that someone came, I mean, we'd still have to have some other outside subs, but they would know, okay, this is what I do when I come here, because I'm here every day. That, I mean, I was just trying to think of ways that we could,
And we're saying it's just for this year.
just for this year. And I don't know that I can find these people,
Right.
to be honest.
Yeah. I was thinking even if we upped it to 150, I don't know. And they, I don't know.
I guarantee you,
You-
for $150, you'll get subs.
You owe it to, up it to 150 this year, he's gonna have a hard time dropping it next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd just soon hire some more, but, we can table it for another period of time until we meet again.
I'd like to see the stats, what the money,
Yeah. And like to know how many we have signed up for this year too, just to see what that is.
And I know I had one call today, said she couldn't set up.
Yeah.
There.
Four so far that we've watched.
older people mainly.
But I can sure get that.
So is the consensus to table this until our budget meeting? Okay. We're ready for 7.8, which is executive session to discuss personnel and also negotiations. And Lori, how much time are we going to need?
I'd say 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Did that include our negotiations time?
Probably not.
Okay, so I think Lou and I probably need another 10 or 15 to talk about negotiations.
So we'll start with 20?
Yeah, that's probably sufficient.
Was that a motion?
Yeah. I move we go into executive session to discuss confidential employee information pursuant to non-elected personnel exception or COMA and the exception for employer negotiations under COMA. 7:07 for 20 minutes, and we'll return here at 7:27 p.m.
That will include the board and the superintendent, assistant superintendent.
Correct.
That was by Jeff. A second from someone, please.
Yep.
Roger. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries 7-0. Thank you.
We have a break?
Yeah.
Well, never mind. I didn't know that's right. You already